Well, good morning there, Space Monkeys. Welcome to Political Fight Club. This episode is going to be going after Kyrsten Sinema for something that she said this morning. She came out in defense during a press conference, came out in defense of the filibuster. Right on the tails of me doing the episode about how the Democrats are screaming to high heaven about the filibuster because it allows them a Republican scapegoat, rather than them having to look in the mirror and actually get things done just themselves by using budget reconciliation to go around the filibuster. Now, a couple of other channels have already gone over this little conference that she had with John Cornyn, who's the Republican senator from Texas, and they mostly nailed it. But there's one thing that I haven't seen any of them say that's a little more nuanced that is very important about why she's against the filibuster. Now, they said, and I agree, that she doesn't want the filibuster to go anywhere because she really doesn't want a progressive policy to get through. She really, in her heart of hearts, is really more of a Republican than a Democrat, and in fact votes with Republicans just as much as she does Democrats. So I'm going to read to you exactly what she said here, and we're going to break down why every sentence that she says one by one is bullshit, and then I'm going to go into the last nuanced issue of why she really doesn't want the filibuster to go anywhere beyond the fact that she really just doesn't want any progressive policies to pass. So here's what she said verbatim. I'm a supporter of the filibuster because it's a tool that protects democracy. The idea of the filibuster was created by those who came before us in the U.S. Senate to create calmity and to encourage bipartisanship. I think I'm a daily example of how bipartisanship is possible. Okay, so let's break that down, those three sentences, one by one. First sentence, I'm a supporter of the filibuster because it's a tool that protects democracy. The filibuster is literally undemocratic. Literally. It's one of the most undemocratic laws that we have. A democracy means that if there's 100 people voting on legislation or to elect somebody to office, that you need a majority and that person goes into that position or that piece of legislation passes. That's 51 votes. The filibuster forces us to get 60% of the votes to pass anything. That's literally the opposite of democracy. Literally. So she's lying. She's lying. She's just putting flowery words up there and hoping that people that are watching don't know anything about the filibuster and don't know that it's literally one of the most undemocratic things about the United States. Two, she says, the idea of the filibuster was created by those who came before us in the U.S. Senate to create calmity and to encourage bipartisanship. Okay, the filibuster was created by white supremacists in the Senate during the Jim Crow era because they were always in the minority and were never able to pass anything, and they were never able to block anything because they never had enough votes to block anything in a simple majority. So they created the filibuster so you only need 41 votes. If you have 41 votes, you can block anything in the Senate, even though you're in the vast minority. And white supremacists, segregationists, invented it so that they could still block things that they didn't like, even though their ideas were not popular enough to ever gain them a majority on anything. So it just gave power to a whole bunch of white supremacists in the Senate, and it still does. And she acts like it's encouraging bipartisanship. It was created by people who wanted to encourage bipartisanship. Bullshit. It was created by segregationists and white supremacists to help them maintain power in a system where they didn't have popular enough ideas to actually get power themselves. So, encourages bipartisanship. My ass. Last, I think I'm a daily example of how bipartisanship is possible. She says while standing right next to John Cornyn, who has not voted once for anything. He has not voted for anything the Democrats have put forward. Has any Republican voted for anything the Democrats have put forward? Have they gotten one Republican vote on anything? No. Zero. The Republicans have no interest in working bipartisanly with the Democrats. When Kyrsten Sinema says this is her saying, oh, I'm working bipartisanly with Republicans to screw you over. And they act like just the fact that she's working with the other side and somehow makes her worth exalting, worth like she's the adult in the room. She bipartisanly gave you guys all and me all the thumbs down on the $15 minimum wage, along with 7 other Senate Democrats working bipartisan. Whenever she says that, just insert the term, take out bipartisan, insert the term, working with Republicans to fuck over everybody. That's what she means when she says working bipartisan. So none of the Republicans ever worked bipartisan with us or with the Democrats on anything. Have we gotten any votes? No. So it's never like, we're going to give the Republicans a little bit here and then they'll give us a little bit more down the road. No. The Republicans always get what they want, and Kyrsten Sinema helps them get that, and that's what she calls bipartisanship. And since we're going right on all of the policies with her help, it screws over the American people. So she's just screwing everybody over and using the blanket term of bipartisanship to make it look like she's not an evil sack of shit. So this is 100% bullshit. Now I want to come to the last point here, guys. The other shows went over, the fact that the filibuster allows Kyrsten Sinema to be comfortable because she doesn't really want to get progressive policy done, and allows all of the Democratic Party to scapegoat the Republicans. And that's really what Kyrsten Sinema wants to do. She wants to give the facade that she's being bipartisan and that she's working really hard for the American people, but really all she's doing is she's working with Republicans to screw over the American people and doesn't want to take flack for it. Beyond that, though, there's another reason, okay? And you guys know this because I just went over it in the last video. If the filibuster went to the bone pile of extinction or of extinct racist laws in our country, if it just didn't exist as of tomorrow, you would no longer need those 60 votes. Who would the spotlight of the media fall on, and all the ire of all the people that need some of this legislation done fall on if the Republicans were no longer to blame? Sinema and Manchin. That's it. Those are the only two that are really blocking everything that comes through and helping the Republicans block everything. And if you suddenly didn't need another Republican vote at all, if the filibuster was gone, immediately they would have the spotlight shined on them for being essentially Republicans that wear blue ties to work. So she doesn't want that. She doesn't want everybody to be focusing on her and how she's doing a terrible job. They're too busy focusing on the Republicans right now, i.e. she defends the filibuster so that she doesn't end up in the hot seat. That's why. And that's the main reason, guys. I mean, there's a million different ways that both of these parties can figure out how to sandbag good legislation, filibuster or the parliamentarian via budget reconciliation, whatever. They're always going to find a reason to not get things done. But Sinema knows that if the filibuster gets abolished, the first person that's going to be on the chopping block of the media, and particularly like independent media and the left, is her and Joe Manchin. And she doesn't want that. She doesn't want that attention, so she defends the filibuster. That's why. So she's a horrible person. I call her Effie Trinket from the Hunger Games because she dresses like her, acts like her, and she did that fucking thing to vote down the $15 minimum wage. May the odds be ever in your favor. So she's a horrible person, and that's why she doesn't want the filibuster going anywhere. And when she says the words, "Oh, I want to work bipartisan with people from all over," it means, no, I'm going to go work with the Republicans to screw over the American people. You never see Kyrsten Sinema working with like the squad going left, trying to get something done. Not that that's necessarily bipartisan because she is a Democrat, but she always works with Republicans, and the Republicans know they can count on her to make sure that nothing can get through, even via budget reconciliation, because she and Manchin can still block things via budget reconciliation if they want to. So there's no bigger deterrence on democracy in this country than Kyrsten Sinema. There's no one who works bipartisanly more to screw you over than Kyrsten Sinema. She doesn't give a shit that the filibuster is a racist law created by segregationists and white supremacists in the Jim Crow era. She doesn't care about that. She knows her ideas suck, and she is on the Republican side 50 to 60% of the time. So this allows her a scapegoat. The Republicans take the flack. The heat's off of her, so therefore she'll defend the filibuster to make sure that the spotlight never ends up on her, and that we can't actually have a democracy where you only need 50 or 51 votes to pass things. Because then she'd actually have to vote correct, and her donors won't let her do that. So fuck Kyrsten Sinema, and fuck a filibuster. Also, guys, remember, we don't need to use the filibuster. We can use budget reconciliation and actually put Sinema and Manchin on the hot seat if we wanted to. So it's not even entirely their fault, because even if we wanted to get something done and put Manchin and Sinema in a hot seat, all Biden would have to do is say, I'm overruling the parliamentarian, so we're going around the filibuster using budget reconciliation, and Manchin and Sinema are going to vote correct, or we're going to end their careers. So if Biden really, really cared, he could really put Sinema in a bad place, and he doesn't. So again, she's enabled all over the place to do stuff like this by people on both sides of the aisle. So keep fighting the good fight out there, guys. I'll talk to you later.